Oswego is full of family-style diners. From Maria's to Wade's, you can get a satisfying, delicious breakfast for relatively cheap. But what if you don't want to spend that much money on one meal, or you just don't feel like going out? I'm going to teach you how to make what they call a lumberjack-style breakfast, all for under $15. So go wash up and get ready to eat, because you're watching Dom's Dinner Bell. So what is the lumberjack? It can vary by restaurant, it can also vary by name, but my favorite iteration of the lumberjack are 2 fried eggs, 2 pieces of toast, sausage, home fries, and a stack of pancakes. You don't need a whole lot of fancy ingredients for this one. It's pretty straightforward. You start the recipe off with 3 eggs total. You need 3 because 1 goes into the pancake mix and 2 you're going to use for frying. These only cost you about $2.67 for a dozen at Walmart. You need 1 log of breakfast sausage. This stuff here only cost me about $2.35 for this whole big old chunk of meat here. And what we're going to do with that is season it up a little bit and turn it into some patties. You need a bunch of potatoes. This bag here is from Aldi. It only cost me about $3.50, but if you go to Walmart, they sell a big bag of russets for about $3.50 as well. You also need a loaf of bread. You're only going to need 2 of these slices because you're making just 2 pieces of toast. And that should pretty much do it for the protein part of the lumberjack. Now for the pancakes, you can buy a boxed mix for about $1.98 at Walmart. But we don't play that game here on Dom's Dinner Bell. We have flour, which should only cost you about $1. You're going to need a cup of that. You're going to need 2 teaspoons of baking powder, not soda. That's a big difference there. But this stuff's pretty cheap too. You need 1 cup of milk. This half gallon only cost me about $1.59 at Aldi. And then you need 2 tablespoons of melted butter, which is still sitting in the fridge, unfortunately. You need a little bit of vanilla. You need a little bit of cinnamon. You need some sugar. And you need some confectioner's sugar to make it nice and fluffy. With all of these ingredients that cost about under $15, you can make yourself more than 1 lumberjack breakfast as well. So with all this stuff, let's start with prep work before we get to cooking. So with the prep work, what you're going to want to do with the home fries first is take your bag of potatoes, open them up, and you're going to want to cut these little guys into 1-inch pieces. Now with how small these potatoes are, you can cut them about into quarters and you should be good to go, but I'm going to cut them just a bit smaller than that so we've got a little bit more surface area for them to get nice and crispy. And what you do with these cut potatoes is you drop them into a little bath of cool water. And why we do that is because if you are going to bake these potatoes just straight up, all that extra starch, it might get a little not as crispy as you would like it, So getting rid of all of that extra starch by letting them sit in this cool water bath, it elevates your potato game by miles, Can't express it enough. Just makes everything taste a little bit better. It gets rid of some of that starchy flavoring on it. And then once we get these all nice and prepped, all we're gonna do is let them sit there for a while. And when we let the potatoes sit, you don't stir them, you don't bathe them, you don't swish them around. You just kind of let them sit there because it lets all the extra starch and any weird excess liquids in there get out. So once we get all of these cut up, we got a whole bag of them, and I'm going to do the whole bag of them because I'm a home fry kind of guy. Leave them in there, and then we'll start to get the dry ingredients for our pancakes mixed up, but we'll get there when we get there, to quote Mr. Incredible. Now, I talked about it a lot last episode. Make sure that your knife is always sharp. People who were watching the show kept dogging me for how much I mentioned knife sharpness. But there is nothing more dangerous in the kitchen. Well, 1, an open flame, but 2, a dull knife. Because when you've got a dull knife and you're trying to work through something that's a little bit tougher to try and cut through with a dull knife, you run the risk of lopping off part of your hand. And I don't say that as an exaggeration, I mean it, because I've seen it. I've worked in kitchens before, and you have a knife that isn't properly sharpened, it just doesn't end well. A sharp knife, while it is dangerous with how sharp it is, you don't have to worry about running yourself through because you've got full control over the blade. You're not fighting with the vegetables or anything like that. So that'll probably be one of the last times I mention, or at least go on a tangent about why your knife should be so sharp. Not much to cutting potatoes. If you've got bigger potatoes and you're trying to cut 1-inch pieces out of it, all you got to do is use this bit of your finger here. If the piece of potato is about that size, you know, that's good. It's about 1 inch. Last 3 potatoes. You think we can get them all in one shot, Jake? All right, let's do it. All right, ready? Hey, there we go. Put a lot of faith in me on that one. Whew. Oh, it's still stuck. There we go. I'll do it there. Get off. Yeah, and if your potato pieces are not exactly 1 inch, doesn't matter. 1 inch is just a good place to have it at so that you know how long everything's going to cook, and if they're a uniform size, they all cook a little bit more evenly. So now that you've got this bowl full of watered down potatoes now, all you got to do is let it sit in the sink for a little while, because we really don't need the sink for a little bit. What you want to do next before you start working at the sausage and flavoring it and getting it into more of a mash than it is a log, you're going to want to put together the dry parts of your pancake mix. You're going to start it off with 1 cup of flour. Take your 1 cup measuring cup. One thing about baking is I've never been good at it. So I rely heavily, not on sight, but for the recipe itself. I never stray from a baking recipe because I feel like when I do, all that I get is wet bread, and it's not fun. So, just a cup of flour. We need a teaspoon, or 2 teaspoons, of baking powder. You see already how messy I get when I bake. This is why I don't do it. Though pancakes are possibly my favorite thing to bake. A little spot there. Let's really get it on there. There we go. There's 1. And there's 2. Okay. Then we have 2 tablespoons of sugar. I've got this big old thing full of sugar here. Mary Poppins says a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. I say it's the only thing that helps anything go down. I love sugar. Anyway, there's 1 there. Oh, another 1 there. So there's our sugar. You got to do 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, which this one I kind of eyeball. You know, cinnamon's a good flavor to have in pancakes. It brings a nice warmth to them. Looks about good. Yeah, let's do that. Nice a teaspoon of cinnamon. And then we do 1 tablespoon of confectioner's sugar. That keeps things nice and fluffy. Nice in there. And by confectioner's sugar, I just mean powdered sugar. It's got a whole lot of different names, but it's the nice white fluffy stuff that you can very easily confuse for flour. Make sure it stays in a bag labeled powdered sugar. I've made that mistake one too many times. Wrap that back up, and of course, just to give it a little bit of savory flavor, we're going to add in a pinch of table salt. Just a little touch more. And that's about good right there. So we will take a whisk, and we'll just break out and combine all these ingredients. Now, obviously, there's no wet stuff in here yet, so we're not going to worry about that because we're just getting all of the dry ingredients to get to know each other, try and get rid of any errant lumps that you can, because, you know, you can still see a little bit of the baking powder and some of the, I don't know, it's all white in there. I can't tell what's what. That's beside the point. So you got yourself a nice little dough, and if you're using the boxed mix, you don't have to do this step. After you've got your pancake mix all mixed together, or at least the dry ingredients, you've got your potatoes in the sink. What we're going to do is take this nice log of original premium sausage with added spices. This stuff already comes spiced, but to me, it's never enough. So be very careful cutting around the top end of your sausage log. Got good sausage in there. And this is where you can't be afraid to get your hands dirty, because we're going to take that out there, and then we're going to squeeze like a push pop all the sausage into the bowl. And it's just going to kind of plop there. And we've got just about every last bit that we can get. And I always say, taste while you cook. This is raw meat. Don't eat raw meat. This is not a good idea to start tasting while you're seasoning. So what I do is with this sausage log, you just add, for me anyway, a touch of salt. You add a little bit more pepper than you might think you need. And the classics for breakfast sausage are, and it's just like in Scarborough Fair, parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. That's what makes sausage taste sausagey, if you will. So you take the parsley, you pop that open there, drop a little bit of the good stuff in there. Got a little bit of parsley. I would say that's maybe a teaspoon, half a teaspoon. Up next is thyme. The thyme are leaves, so you can add these a little bit more liberally, but you know, they produce a nice earthy flavor. The rosemary, of course, can go in this way here. You see that the rosemary, here, I'll show the camera too. The rosemary are like these little pods, and so they might get caught in your teeth while you're cooking or while you're eating, and that's not a bad thing. It's just part of the spice itself. Now, sage is very potent. Yeah, it's got a nice strong scent to it. So you don't want to use a whole lot. You just kind of want to, about that much. And you're good to go. It'll be a very nice flavor. Now, what you do next is get your hands dirty. Now remember, when you're mixing with your hands, you just gotta kind of go for it. So you just kind of get everything together there this way. Move it between your hands. Don't worry, I wash my hands. And after we work with meat like this, always wash your hands, because then you're touching raw meat and then you're touching everything else in the kitchen. And if you forget to wash your hands, you got to burn the building down. That's simple. I'm kidding. Don't burn your house down. Don't burn your apartment down. Just you're going to have to disinfect everything after that. And that's a pain. And I don't think it's worth the effort. So just always make sure that after you're done mixing up your sausage, you know, we've got a nice, good mound of sausage there, well seasoned. Smell it? Smells like, you know, raw meat, but it smells good. Hands are all nasty. We'll take the potatoes out of the sink. We will wash our hands, and then we should be ready to cook. You've got your pancake mix done, you've got your potatoes soaking, and you've got your meat all set and ready in season. So stay tuned, folks. Up next, we're cooking breakfast. You're watching Dom's Dinner Bell.
Say, President Stanley, whenever there's bad weather, who would you turn to?
I'd turn to Storm Team 10.
No, but you've got to say it like this. Storm Team 10. Say it with me. Storm Team 10.
Roll it. Jill told me it was Kitty from Glee. Yeah, what is it?
Al Roker.
Welcome back, folks. Before we get started on the pancakes, I have seasoned and oiled up the potatoes, getting ready for baking. Now, these potatoes, it's a very standard seasoning mix that you put on top of them. All it is paprika, salt, pepper, a little bit of chili powder, and some garlic powder. That's just a great way to get any kind of potato tasting less potato-y. Gives it a little bit of a flavor. So what we have now is a greased baking sheet. Our oven has been set to 400 degrees, and all we're gonna do is pour the potatoes onto the baking sheet, if they would all come out of the bloody bowl. Put that away in the sink and spread them all out. So all we're gonna do with these here potatoes, take them in the 400-degree oven and throw them in. So what we do next, of course, is we get the pancake mix ready to go. All that you need for the wet ingredients of the pancake mix are 1 egg. Now, a lot of people will say that you have to crack the egg on a curved surface. That's just not true. You can crack it on something like the edge of a pan or on the edge of a bowl. That's perfectly fine. You just run the risk of potentially getting a bunch of eggshells in there if you're not too careful. So what I like to do, and I'll show you again when I cook the eggs, is you tap it on a flat surface until it creates more of an even ring around the break. Now, of course, there's still some spidering there, but it keeps it all together. You don't get fragments in there. After that, we add a little bit of vanilla, just about a teaspoon. That's the good stuff there. Gives it a nice little flavor. Vanilla all over myself. And 1 cup of milk. You can use almond milk. You can use cashew milk. You can use any kind of milk. You can use chocolate milk. I've tried that, and it's not half bad. But I just like to keep things classic. So you pour the 1 cup of milk in there and let it sit around a little while. Now, I have, when it comes to pancakes, a secret weapon. And this secret weapon can only be found in New Berlin, New York. This is homemade maple syrup. You just take a little bit of this good stuff. Oh, look at that. And that's about it. Oh, I can't help myself. From there, break up your yolk and whisk. So now that that is all done, nice and mixed, what we're gonna do is turn on this burner here with a little griddle in it. Let's move the teleprompter, shall we? We're gonna put this little one here, and we are going to turn it on to about medium-high heat. Now what you're gonna do with this, with the pancake mix, is you take a 1/4 cup measuring cup, you scoop it out, and you plop it one at a time on the pan. But what you wanna do with your little griddle there, spray it down with some Pam. And what we're gonna do, actually before we do that, I'm safe to put it down on this burner because it's not on. But what we are going to do is take out a plate. And what we're gonna do with this plate is not eat off of it. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a nice clean towel. I put this one fresh this morning, so I know it's clean. And we're gonna lay it right on the plate here. Because with the pancakes that are done, we're gonna put them on this plate, cover them up with a towel, and it keeps them warm. So I'll demonstrate that now that my pan is getting nice and hot. That's another thing, always check heat with the back of your hand. You don't want to go hand down on it. That's just no fun. And also what we're going to be doing with the toast is, if I don't have a toaster oven on hand, is I crank up the oven and I bake it. Turns it into toast. It's a little bit more energy consuming, but you got to work with what you got, you know? And that's what the whole point of this show is. Work with what you've got. Now, come check this out. You're going to notice that your pancakes are cooking because you see all these little bubbles start to form. And now what you want to look for is a bunch of little bubbles and the edges of your pancake to get firm. You know, because if you pick it up too early, it's going to fall apart like slop on your spatula. And if you pick it up too late, you're going to have a burned pancake, and that's not any good. But you start to see all these little bubbles form around the edge there, and you can kind of see that it's starting to be whole. So we'll take a quick sneak peek. Still a little blonde to be flipped, but it's getting there. You see all the bubbles start to pop too? I'll readjust where it is on the griddle, and you can really start to see it do its thing. That's what you're looking for with a good pancake, is you want it to get bubbly. So let's give this one a shot. Turn it over. Look at that. Could do it a little bit longer, but for right now, that's pretty good. Oh, it's starting to smell good too. You smell that, huh? Yeah, it's a good pancake right there, yeah. So that one's nice and done. See that there? So we put it over on this plate. You cover it up there. Pancake mix will make you about a dozen pancakes. You're never going to eat a dozen pancakes in one sitting. If you do, that's your thing. By all means, go ahead. I'm never going to stop you. But you can Save these in a bag, wrap them in tin foil, anything like that. That's my smoke alarm. See the wisps of smoke there?
What?
Oh, there's little wisps of smoke.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Look at that. How fun. So, one thing that I forgot to mention is you have to take your potatoes out of the oven and flip them. You see how they're getting nice and brown on this side here? That's great. They're not all doing that at the same time though. So you just got to take them, move them around a bit so they don't get stuck to the bottom of your pan. And most of the time, if you were really doing traditional home fries, you'd cook them in the pan as well. We don't have the time for that because that would just be another step. And if you're trying to get everything done so that it's all hot all at once, doing the home fries in the oven is your best bet. Because when you do the home fries on the pan or on the pot, you do them with a little bit of onion and you load them up with bacon fat or butter and you give it that traditional diner taste. But unfortunately, that's not quite what we're operating with. And you saw me use the flapjack flipper for the potatoes. Totally fine. You're not working with meat in these two situations. The pancakes were cooked. You're good to go. Sausage. Again, since I'm going to be handling this stuff, I'm not going to be handling much else. But the way I like to do sausage when it's raw like this is patties. I like to do patties. So what you do is you take about a little bit bigger than a golf ball sized handful. What you do is you press and you use the side of your thumb there to kind of bring in that edge. So while you're pressing, really get it out towards the middle. You want these kind of thin too so that you can just kind of slam them onto the pan and you're good to go. So use that thumb to try and bring in that edge, squeeze it down a little bit, make sure that it's nice and even all the way around. You know, and that looks like a pretty good patty there. So then what you do, right onto the pan, it's going to sizzle up. And we're going to go again. But you got to let these cook a little bit. Using metal on metal is never my big thing, but that's what you're looking for, that nice brown crust. Paper plate, a plate that you lay paper towels on. Because what you're going to do is you're going to lay the cooked sausages on that paper towel. You're going to move your pancakes over a bit so they stay warm. Move these over here. Flip that. See, now we're rolling. Now we may not be cooking with gas, but we are certainly cooking. Yeah, but you can see, now come here with this. You see how it's soft and squishy in the middle? That means that sausage is still raw. You don't want that. That's not good for you. You see all the pink stuff come up? That's still raw sausage. That's no good. That's not going to taste nice. So we flip it back over, let it cook some more. This one, let's see how it's doing. Not even close. Pull that back over. So these are looking good. These are looking finished. So we go over here, put it right down there. That one's looking good as well. Plop it right down there. It's hot. So with that done, let us take this. You see all that swimming fat. And when you take anything off the burner, if you're going to leave the burner on, cover it with something because you don't want to put your hand down on that burner. What we're going to do, I'm going to use one of these mugs here. Place it down this way in the corner. And you're just going to pour off that grease. Again, like I said, there's not a whole lot there, but it's enough that it would make a bit of a mess when you're trying to do your eggs. Now those are good looking potatoes. Nice and brown around the edges. If you want to make sure they're done, you can take a sharp knife. See how it passes through like it was nothing? It's going to stick to it because it's oily, but it passes right through, you know? See, look at that. You're not fighting for it. It's not crunchy in there. You're good to go. Put those there. And with the oven still hot, I don't really feel like taking out my toaster. So we're going to try that trick I just told everybody about. We're going to toast the bread in the oven. Take 2 slices. And all you do is kind of put them there, and let them sit. So now we use a butter knife, about a tablespoon, maybe a little less than a tablespoon. That's a lot of butter because we're just cooking the eggs in them. Now, I like over easy eggs. Jake, do you like over easy eggs?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Over easy eggs mean that you've got a runny yolk. So you're going to want to get that down there. Yeah, let that grease up your pan, get it all around. And it's going to start browning up a little bit. That's okay. That means the pan's still real hot, so I'll drop the temperature just a little bit as well. And this is what really gives it that diner flavor. Just cooked in butter. Let that swirl that around a bit. Let that look good. And then all we do from here, with your butter encasing the pan, I'll show you that trick I was talking about. What you do is you take it, tap, turn, tap, turn, tap, turn. You see a little bit of spider webbing, but if you keep going around, you get a nice seam across it. Boom, egg. There's one. Two. You let those fry right up. With the eggs cooking, we are going to use a different spatula to serve the potatoes. So I will use the potato spatula. And look at that. Now it's going to look brown and weird, but that's just because we cooked sausage on it and the butter has browned up a little bit. So we take this other one here, boom, and you start to hear it cook a little bit more. And there's really not much left to do except get out a couple of plates because it's almost breakfast time. Now, you can serve everything on one plate here, or you can serve the eggs, bacon, and hash browns or the home fries on this plate, and then take two little tiny plates here for your pancakes. The stuff out of the store is great and all, but the pre-seasoning you can never trust because it's never quite to taste. Let's check the potatoes. Can't go wrong with roasted home fries. And of course, my favorite thing to do is when you've got an over easy egg, you bust up the yolk. You got a nice runny yolk there. Egg comes apart. And of course, yeah, look at that. Look at all that goodness right there. Take a little bit of that there. Delicious. And all for under $15. Oh, who am I kidding? Let's try the pancake. Love that recipe. I love that syrup. So all for under $15, you have yourself two breakfasts or breakfast for the next few days. Bunch of eggs, bunch of potatoes, bunch of sausage, bunch of pancakes, all for under $15. Thank you for joining us here on Dom's Dinner Bell. We hope to see you next time. Who knows what we're going to cook?
Hey guys, it's me, Isabella Gomez, filling in for Smokey Bear because he's got more to say than just...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Like, if you're outside enjoying a barbecue, don't let a hamburger distract you from fire safety. Make sure you aren't dumping your hot coals or ashes onto the ground because that could start a wildfire. So take wildfire prevention seriously and let's save the world one day at a time. Juntos con Smokey Bear, podemos hacerlo. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.